This will send her straight to the other side.
The clock in the hallway pointed to 5 a.m. As I tried to open the bathroom door, I heard Chris's voice from inside. Right after that, I heard Julia's voice following.
Then I'll get to spend even more time with you, Dad. I'm so happy.
Julia, you're adorable. We'll have to make sure Matt doesn't find out.
My mind went completely blank at their conversation. Forcing my shaken brain to work, I returned to my room and pressed the record button on my phone. Then I snuck back to the bathroom and carefully recorded their interaction through the gap in the door.
I can't wait for tonight.
Seriously, let's have one more round before Matt and the others wake up.
I kept recording the two of them, tears streaming down my face as they acted flirtatiously. My beloved husband and the daughter-in-law I had cherished all these years were cheating. Unforgivable. I began to plan my revenge against them. Just you wait. I'll make you regret this. My name is Mary Taylor. I'm a 75-year-old housewife. Although I continued working after retirement, I quit last year to enjoy my golden years. Lately, my hobby has been taking photos and videos wherever I go. My husband, Chris, and I met through our company. He joined as a mid-career hire at the firm where I was working, and as I trained him, we eventually started dating. 5 years into our relationship, I got pregnant with our first son, Matt, which led to our marriage. Chris loves sports and isn't great with complex matters, but he's cheerful and adored by kids. When Matt started elementary school, Chris began coaching a local youth sports team and continues to coach at 77 years old. Since Matt was our only child, both Chris and I poured a lot of love into him. Although Matt can be overly idealistic at times, he grew up to be a straight-laced young man. He graduated from a prestigious university and got a job as a government worker, a son I'm proud of. That same son married his childhood friend, someone he'd been close to since they were little. My son's wife, Julia, has been close to both Chris and me since she was a child. Even now, 3 years after her marriage, people often mistake us for being as close as real family. She's a bit of a daddy's girl, but even that is something I find endearing. Julia and Matt live nearby, and we usually have dinner together twice a week. However, since Julia quit her job, these dinners have been happening more frequently. Preparing meals for 4 adults regularly has been challenging, but since Chris has been pitching in with the chores, it hasn't been too overwhelming. Chris has started going on drives 3 times a week, calling it his free time. Sometimes he's gone for just 2 hours, while other times he's out for the whole day. I once asked him where he went, but he said he didn't plan his routes. He just drives aimlessly and comes home when he feels satisfied. At one point, I brought up the idea of giving up his license, considering he's over 75, but Chris flat out refused. Matt and I figured his pride as a man played a part, and since he hadn't caused any issues while driving, we decided to just keep an eye on things. Recently, however, Chris started bringing Julia back with him after his drives.
I happened to bump into Julia at the grocery store. She looked like she had a lot to carry, so I gave her a lift.
Oh, you showed up just in time, Dad. Thank you so much.
Seeing the two of them laughing together, I thought their closeness might be due to their childhood connection, and I found it heartwarming.
You're closer to Dad than I am.
Matt joked. One day, on one of Chris's drive days, I fell ill. Assuming it was just a cold, I lay down to rest. Chris, meanwhile, began preparing to head out. Chris, I'm sorry, but could you skip your drive today? When I spoke to Chris, he flinched and turned to look at me. After thinking for a moment, he sat down beside me and smiled.
Of course I won't go. I'll get you something to eat and something cold to help you feel better. Just rest, okay?
Thank you, and I'm sorry,
Don't worry about it.
Chris replied before heading out. I soon drifted off to sleep, but woke up later needing to use the bathroom. The clock showed it was already past noon, and my stomach growled in hunger. On my way back from the bathroom, I stopped by the living room, but didn't see Chris anywhere. He's not back yet. That's odd. Before I fell asleep, the clock had read 9 a.m. If he'd gone to the nearest drugstore, he should have been back by now. I tried calling him, but there was no answer. Left with no other option, I heated up some prepackaged porridge from our pantry and returned to my room. It was another 3 hours before Chris finally returned. Strangely, Julia was with him. After hearing their story, I learned that Chris had spent the day helping Julia with her shopping.
I didn't know you were feeling sick, Mom. I'm so sorry.
Julia, don't worry about it. You might catch my cold, so head home for today. When Julia apologized, looking like she was about to cry, I found myself unable to stay upset. After Julia left, I made a sarcastic comment to Chris, but seeing him genuinely apologetic, I decided to let it go. A few months later, I planned a day trip with some friends from the neighborhood association. When I asked Chris if I should prepare some meals in advance, he told me to just enjoy myself and that he'd handle lunch on his own. I happily took his offer and left the preparations to him. The day trip was a lot of fun, but one of the group members fell ill, so we ended up coming back earlier than planned. I tried calling Chris before returning, but he didn't pick up. Figuring he might be too absorbed in the TV to notice, I left him a message. When I got home, I still hadn't received a reply from Chris. I wondered if he was napping, but I could hear shuffling sounds and movement coming from inside the house. I opened the front door and called out, "I'm back." Looking down, I noticed a pair of women's shoes by the door. Could it be an affair? The thought made my blood run cold.
Oh, you're back early.
Whose shoes are these? Don't tell me you brought someone over. The moment I confronted Chris, someone rushed out of the living room in a hurry. When I saw who it was, I felt all the tension leave my body.
Welcome home, Julia. You should have told me you were going out.
According to her, she had run into Chris while he was out buying lunch. When she heard I wasn't home, she decided to cook at our place, including something for herself. She explained that she thought it'd be difficult for me to prepare dinner after coming back from my trip, so she started on dinner as well.
I'm so sorry for using your kitchen without asking. I didn't know where everything was, so I kept asking Chris, which is probably why he didn't notice your calls. I'm really sorry.
Julia kept apologizing, but I quickly stopped her and thanked her instead. She still seemed guilty until Matt came home and we all sat down to eat together. After dinner, Julia was back to her usual cheerful self, which was a relief to see. When Julia and Matt celebrated their 10th wedding anniversary, they happily shared the news that they had purchased a new home. Julia, who had been feeling down recently due to their struggles with infertility and starting treatments 2 years ago, decided it was time for a fresh start in a new environment. It had been a while since I'd seen Julia looking so cheerful, and Matt seemed just as delighted.
Mom, Dad, we'd love for you to come stay at our new place.
Overjoyed at the invitation, Chris and I eagerly accepted and went to visit. Their new home was simple yet stylish, and we had a wonderful dinner together, complete with some drinks. Later, we slept soundly in the guest room they had prepared for us. Early in the morning, I heard the sound of sliding doors opening and woke up. It seemed Chris had gotten up to use the restroom. I lay there, thinking about how as you age, You tend to wake more often during the night and sleep more lightly. Though I considered going back to sleep, I was too awake to do so. In that case, I might as well just get up. With that thought, I got out of bed to wash my face.
This will send her straight to the other side.
The clock in the hallway showed it was 5 a.m. As I reached to open the bathroom door, I heard Chris's voice from inside. Soon after, Julia's voice followed.
Then I'll get to spend even more time with you, Chris. I'm so happy.
Julia, you're adorable. We'll just have to make sure Matt doesn't find out.
Their conversation left me utterly shocked, my mind going blank. Forcing my confused thoughts to focus, I went back to my room and pressed the record button on my phone. Then, I quietly returned to the bathroom and began filming the two of them through the gap in the door.
I can't wait for tonight.
Me neither. Let's have one more round before Matt wakes up.
Watching the two of them flirt so openly, I couldn't stop my tears as I continued recording. The daughter-in-law I had cherished and the husband I loved were cheating. Unforgivable. I began planning my revenge against them. Just wait. I'll make you regret this. I continued filming them without moving a muscle until they finished their deeds. Once they started showering, I stopped the recording and quietly returned to bed to avoid being noticed. Tears of frustration welled up, but I wiped them away repeatedly with the towel in my hands, biting my lip to endure the pain. After showering, Chris returned to the room and climbed into bed as if nothing had happened, promptly falling back asleep. Though I wanted to wake him up and confront him, I held back and instead checked his phone discreetly under the covers. Chris had always been bad with technology, and the password was still the one I had set for him, making it easy to access. His phone was filled with incriminating evidence, photos, and messages that served as undeniable proof. I forwarded everything to my phone, erased the history, and returned his phone to its original spot. At breakfast, as everyone gathered in the living room, Julia spoke to me cheerfully.
Mom, did you sleep well last night?
Yes, I slept wonderfully. Thank you, Julia.
That's great. I'd love for you to stay over again tonight. Would that be okay?
Julia asked me with sparkling, pleading eyes. In the past, I would have found it adorable, but after seeing her true nature this morning, it gave me chills. I quickly forced a smile and agreed. Julia didn't seem to notice my unease and hummed a cheerful tune. That day, we spent some time shopping for things for their new home before returning and having dinner together. Around 8 p.m., Julia spoke to me with a bright smile. Mom, I've prepared the bath for you. Why don't you go first for a change?
Julia, that's so thoughtful of you. Mary, why don't you take her up on the offer?
Their insistent invitation to the bath made me think. Now's my chance. Oh, I couldn't possibly. Julia, you must rarely get to enjoy the first bath, right? This is your new home's bath after all. I wouldn't want to go in before the family does.
No, that's not true. Please, you go ahead.
Julia said, sounding slightly flustered. Time for one more push. I turned to Matt. Matt, I'm so sorry, but I'm feeling a bit tired. Would it be all right if I skip the bath tonight and let Julia go in first?
Oh, I see. Sorry for dragging you around today. Julia, Mom's not going in, so why don't you take the first bath?
Realizing that insisting further wouldn't be a good idea, Julia reluctantly agreed to Matt's suggestion. But she didn't seem ready to give up entirely. She turned to me once more.
Actually, I was going to keep it a surprise, but I put some special bath salts in just for you, Mom. I thought you might be tired. I even set up some aromatherapy for a relaxing atmosphere. So even just soaking for a bit could help.
Oh, how sweet of you. Thank you, Julia. Matt, since Julia went through so much effort, why don't you check it out before I get in? Though my suggestion was a bit of a stretch, Matt seemed curious and headed to the bathroom with me. Julia followed nervously behind us. When we opened the bathroom door, the tub was filled with cloudy white water. The aroma tried to mask it, but there was a faint, strange smell. Oh, it looks lovely, but I'm so sorry. I have sensitive skin. Could you tell me what's in it?
Well, what was it again?
If my suspicion was correct, whatever was in that tub wasn't good for the body. Seeing Julia's reaction only confirmed my hunch.
Now that I think about it, Mom's skin always reacts quickly. Hey, Julia, why don't you go in first? That way Mom can relax, knowing it's fine.
Yes, Julia. Would you mind going ahead? Taking advantage of Matt's suggestion, Julia couldn't insist any further and reluctantly agreed.
All right.
Leaving Julia behind with a frustrated expression, we returned to the living room. But Julia didn't come out of the bath for a long time. I wonder what's taking Julia so long. Do you think she got dizzy from the heat? Matt, could you check on her?
Good idea. I'll go take a look.
Matt said, standing up and heading to the bathroom. I calmly sipped my tea while glancing at Chris out of the corner of my eye. Chris fidgeted nervously, unable to stay calm.
Julia, are you okay?
As soon as Matt's shout came from the bathroom, Chris dashed out of the living room. I followed him and found Julia lying on the floor, still fully dressed. Chris immediately threw open the windows in the bathroom and the laundry room before calling 911.
Hello. Please send an ambulance right away. My daughter-in-law has been poisoned.
Chris stopped mid-sentence, realizing his mistake, and turned to look at me. Matt, hearing Chris's words, stood there in shock. I smiled up at Chris. It's fine. I know everything. If you want to save Julia, you better tell the paramedics the truth, right?
What? How did you find out?
Chris panicked but struggled to explain the situation when questioned by the paramedics. Matt, still confused, stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. In the end, Julia was diagnosed with poisoning caused by a toxic plant. She was admitted to the hospital for a day for tests and treatment. After Julia calmed down with 4 fluids and opened her eyes, I leaned in and whispered, "Make sure to explain everything once you're discharged." Julia let out a small, frightened gasp and stared at me with wide, fearful eyes. When we returned home, I found Chris lying in the living room. Matt stood beside him, his face red with anger and his breathing heavy. From the scene, I understood that Matt had learned the truth. Matt, calm down. Let's talk this through first.
Mom, I can't stay calm about this.
Matt was crying. Seeing my kind-hearted son in such pain only made me despise Chris even more. Chris looked at me with a trembling expression.
How did you figure it out?
Chris, trembling with fear, asked me cautiously. In response, I showed him the video I had recorded that morning. Not wanting Matt to hear, I kept the volume low, just enough for Chris to hear. Chris turned pale as he watched the footage. When I woke up and overheard my husband and my son's wife having a suspicious conversation in the bathroom, of course, I was shocked.
No, this was a surprise. That's it.
As if that excuse would work. I cut him off sharply, leaving Chris speechless. Matt grabbed Chris by the collar.
Since when? Tell me everything.
Under Matt's intense pressure, Chris, now completely pale, began to confess his relationship with Julia. What he revealed left both Matt and me utterly stunned. Chris and Julia had been involved with each other even before Julia married Matt. It turned out Julia's first love had been Chris all along. Despite knowing that Chris was married to me, Julia confessed her feelings to Matt, hoping to stay close to Chris. About 6 months before their wedding, Julia confessed her feelings for Chris during a moment when they were alone, and Chris admitted to beginning a physical relationship with her. How could you? Didn't you think about Matt's feelings at all?
I felt guilty, but Julia was cute and she was young. I'm a man too. What do you expect me to do when she came on to me?
His selfish reasoning only fueled my anger. It also came to light that this whole incident was planned because Julia had cried, saying she couldn't bear seeing me with Chris any longer. I'm divorcing you. I can't stay with you anymore.
Wait, Mary, I'm sorry. It was just a lapse in judgment. I only love you. Please, don't divorce me. I'm begging you.
Chris groveled on the floor, pressing his forehead against it as he apologized. But his words were beyond comprehension. I sighed and replied, cheating with our son's wife and planning to put your own wife in a poisoned bath is just a lapse in judgment. Don't make me laugh. I've already contacted your older brother. He happened to be nearby and said he'd come get you right away.
What? My brother? Mary, please, not that.
Chris begged, clinging to him. Just then the doorbell rang. Matt went to answer it, and soon heavy footsteps echoed as a large, stout man entered the house. It's been a while, Henry. I'll leave him in your care. Henry, Chris's older brother, bowed his head apologetically to me before grabbing Chris by the scruff of his neck and dragging him away. Even as he was taken out, Chris kept saying, it was just a moment of weakness, but there was no way such an excuse would work. After Chris was taken away, Matt and I headed to the hospital. When Julia saw Matt's expression, she seemed to realize that everything had been exposed. Lying there, still connected to N4, she turned pale. As Matt began to speak to her, Julia cut him off.
Matt, I'm so sorry. It was just a small mistake. Your dad pressured me, and I couldn't help it.
Clearly unaware that Chris had already confessed everything, Julia's lie was transparent. Matt watched her with a cold, detached gaze. Unaware of Matt's expression, Julia continued to desperately make excuses. When she finally finished her excuses, Matt spoke.
I see. Then there's no helping it.
Exactly. There's no helping it. I'm so sorry. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you.
Perhaps misunderstanding Matt's words, Julia responded, lost in somber reflection. But then she noticed the ice-cold demeanor Matt had been holding.
Matt?
To be honest, when Dad first told me everything, I couldn't believe it. But after seeing how you acted, I realized he was telling the truth.
What are you saying?
Julia asked, forcing a nervous smile as she tried to process his words. Matt glanced at her and spoke firmly.
I'm divorcing you. Don't ever show your face to me again.
As soon as she heard those words, Julia screamed hysterically.
Why? I said I was sorry. Why won't you forgive me?
Her screams echoed through the hospital room. It was Julia's parents, who had quietly appeared behind us, who finally calmed her down.
What's going on here?
Dad, Matt suddenly said he's divorcing me.
Seizing the opportunity, Julia began telling her father only the parts of the story that benefited her. Julia's father listened, then looked at me suspiciously. With no other choice, I showed him the video on my phone and explained everything. Not expecting I had evidence, Julia panicked, repeatedly saying things like, "Wait, and don't watch." After watching the video, Julia's father bowed so deeply on the hospital floor that I thought his head might sink into it. Matt and I helped him up and explained what would happen going forward.
Both my mom and I will be filing for damages. Once we hire a lawyer, we'll finalize the terms, but don't expect any division of assets.
If you do that, I won't be able to survive.
Julia screamed at Matt, but her father's stern glare quickly silenced her. Julia's father agreed with Matt's conditions and said he'd inform Julia's mother. He also promised to monitor Julia until she paid all the damages in full.
You'll regret divorcing me, Matt.
Julia said bitterly as a parting shot. Matt glanced at her coldly and sighed.
I won't regret it, not even a bit. Why would I, when I'm divorcing someone who married me just to get close to my dad?
Hit by his brutally honest words, Julia trembled with frustration, unable to respond. Leaving her behind, we said goodbye to Julia's father and left the hospital room. Afterward, Julia was forcibly sent back to her parents' home and is now juggling a full-time job and a part-time job to repay the damages. However, as someone with little prior work experience, she struggles even to learn basic tasks and has trouble holding down a job for long. Chris resigned from his position as a youth sports coach. He is staying as a guest at his older brother's house. According to reports from his brother, Chris is enduring daily lectures and sarcastic remarks from his strong-willed sister-in-law, who is furious about the whole ordeal. Chris can't call for help either since the area lacks reliable phone signals, and he spends his days working on the family's farm. As for Matt, he sold their house and bought a new apartment. He recently got promoted at work and seems busier than ever, but his social circle has expanded, and he appears to be enjoying himself. As for me, I accepted Matt's offer to live together. I sold my home and moved into the apartment Matt bought. Currently, I'm exploring different senior living communities to decide where I might want to go in the future. While I'm not struggling financially, I figured it never hurts to have a little extra money, so I started a part-time job at a convenience store. Though it's challenging, I enjoy the sense of purpose it gives me, and I've managed to go without missing a single shift so far. Hearing compliments from others about how energetic I am makes me genuinely happy. Recently, Matt, who once said he'd never marry again, told me he wanted to introduce someone. The possibility of him finding happiness again fills me with excitement. I don't know how many years I have left, but my greatest wish is to see Matt happy again.